why don't we move on to something that is, I don't know, I'd like to be have a follow up to it, which is Tenet, Christopher
Ooh.
Nolan's most recent movie, and maybe we'll talk come back to that thought at the end. But I got around to this, Dave, over the winter break. This was on my list, and I got a sound bar for Christmas, so I especially was
Mm.
like, all right, Dave said got to have the best sound possible going into this, got to really lock in, and I did twice. Made sure I got two viewings in on my rental, and I was totally blown away. You think about Christopher Nolan movies, and I think you know this, and I know that you're a big Christopher Nolan fan, but I'm a huge Christopher Nolan guy. Pretty much love every movie he's made. I can't really think of one that I don't really like.
Have you seen his two of his early ones, Insomnia and Following? I actually still have not seen those.
I think I've seen Insomnia. I believe that's with Christian Bale, right?
I don't even know. I
Maybe
don't even
not.
know. I know
Uh,
those are like
so
his
those two
probably
are
two of
fuzzy,
his least liked ones, alongside like Dark Knight Rises, I guess.
but I guess for everything that from those on, I've really enjoyed. And this movie going into it, I heard the mixed reception. A lot of people were saying this is really good Nolan, not great Nolan. A lot of people saying this is just too confusing, too out there.
Right.
Some people saying this is almost too meta in a
Too
way.
much Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was intrigued to see what we got, and I think what I liked most about this movie is, especially in a year when we haven't really gotten a ton of movies like this to just vibe with. Um, I was just totally taken by John David Washington and Robert Pattinson just being super charming the whole time.
Yeah.
We're going on this like espionage thriller the whole time with amazing set pieces, and I didn't necessarily find the concept like totally off putting. Like I thought it was the more you think about it and the more you try to really get into the finer details of things, you're like, does that really make sense? Why didn't he have to wear a mask to breathe oxygen then, but he did then? Like that's the sort of thing where you can start to get lost in the sauce. But if you just take it for what it is, I think it's a
Hmm.
super enjoyable movie, and that's really where I was left with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I haven't revisited it yet. I would like to. It's been a few months. I was lucky enough to see it in the theater, so it's been a little bit for me. But what struck me, I think, is that it's definitely a lot of Nolan. I think that is right. It's like very meta, and like the sound comment, like there are moments where this movie is like hard to hear,
Mhm.
which harkens back to like Bane and
Right.
Tom Hardy wearing a mask in Dunkirk. It's like that's almost like Nolan being like, "Oh, you thought that was hard to hear? Fuck off, then." And even though
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense to like it's unintelligible. Like when I was in the theater, I was like, "Do I have an ear infection? Like, am I congested right now? Is it me?" And
Yeah.
then like weeks later, I'm like, "Oh, it wasn't me. Nice." you know. Um,
Yeah.
but even with that, like, um, and especially since the fallout of the movie where Tenet uh, did not make enough money to turn a profit, and it in a sense it failed at the box office despite making, I think, $350 million, whatever it ended up being. I'm just worried that this might spell the end for Nolan getting big budgets, because Nolan was one of the last people out there that could get big budgets for original shit, you know?
Mhm.
Because Nolan himself is an IP, is a brand. He's like Tarantino. Like people go to see him. They don't care what he's doing. They just want to see his shit because of the track record he has. I hope that's not gone due to, his assumingly burned bridges with Warner Brothers after the HBO Max stuff. So I would hate to see this be the last blockbuster he made, but it's kind of cool to like think about his run, because this is his James Bond movie. This is
Right.
Nolan does James Bond, right? And like you have Interstellar, Nolan does space, Dunkirk,
Mhm.
Nolan does war. Like you have all these things he's done. Um, and I hope we continue to get more of that, because again, even if I don't think this is top tier Nolan, but that also would say a lot if it was. He has
Mhm.
made a lot of great movies and a lot of good movies. So the fact
Yep.
that this is just one of his good movies, and is so blockbuster and big and ambitious, like I like the people that say this shit sucks. Like I just don't understand. Like how do you watch like John David Washington and Pattinson be debonair as fuck in the beginning and be like, nah, I don't like this. Like, what? Like,
Right.
it's great. And the action itself is good. This is some of his best action he's ever done. And it's like, I'm just confused that, like, knowing every single line of the plot suddenly matters to so many people, because that is not the case with lots of other blockbusters that people like.
Right. It's I think about the Chris Hemsworth movie that came out on Netflix earlier in the year. What is it?
Extraction.
Yes, Extraction. And how someone could like watch that, and that has awesome set pieces too, and awesome
Yeah, well done
action
action.
moments.
Mm.
And then watch something like Tenet and be like, no, that's a good movie, but Tenet is just too much, too confusing. It's like I saw a fucking plane crash into the side of a building while a guy was fighting his own self in reverse. Like that was fucking awesome, dude. Like and
Yeah.
the fact that like
The
you get
Mumbai jump where they
oh
bungee
my
jump
god,
20
backwards,
stories. Fucking
so good,
epic.
so good. And just like the way that John David Washington fights off those guys after talking to Elizabeth Debicki,
Hmm.
I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago, and then just like goes to town on those guys. Like that's like a fucking action star making moment. Like that scene
Yeah.
will go on John David Washington's Hall of Fame, but you can walk away from this movie and be like, that sucked. Like even if you don't totally get the inner mechanics of the Nolan world, and you can look at almost any Christopher Nolan movie that takes on like an original concept like Inception,
Mhm.
and you're like, you pick that apart, it doesn't really make sense. But if you just go in, you're just like, I just want to enjoy this movie. I feel like there's no way you can really walk away and be like, I didn't like that. So
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And it's really funny to think back again, the meta nature of it all. Time being such a big presence with lots of Nolan's movies. And Tenet, I agree, is the most challenging of his movies in that regard, because the whole construction of how the plot actually progresses is so dependent on your grasping how time functions in Tenet.
Right.
And then you contrast that with stuff that is, in retrospect, really simple. Like Dunkirk, oh, there's three timelines. One's a day, one's a week, and one is an hour, whatever it was. I forget,
Yeah, and if
But
and
like
if I
it was
remember, they
super,
spelled it
super
out.
straightforward, right?
Right.
And like Inception, which literally is not confusing in the least, because the time is still normal. It's
Right.
just dream within a dream.
Right.
And like Interstellar, where Interstellar, it's all science based, like the concept of a light year,
Mhm.
and like time progressing at different rates depending on where you are in gravity and stuff. And yeah, are there liberties with that science in Interstellar? Of course there is. All the black hole shit's theoretical anyway, right? And of course the ending of Interstellar has long been mocked, and you
Yes.
can separate that. But like I feel like and of course Memento, right, which is
Hmm.
basically, it's just non-linearity. That's
Right.
all. And it makes for a great twist. And then when you watch the movie again, you're see in a completely different light. All
Hmm.
that shit I really find really simple. And Tenet, yeah, Tenet's tougher. I think part of that's because the like plot of the story of Tenet is probably more convoluted than most of Nolan's stuff. So it's harder to keep on task with the time stuff, but still, it's still so thrilling and entertaining, and looks like $1 million that I don't know how people don't have a good time.
Yeah. I don't know either. It's I think back to just like, even if you just like want to say fuck the concept, like I'm just gonna follow what's happening and not even try to really understand the time part of it. I still think you can kind of get the sense that like the first half you're kind of rushing to try to stop them from getting this thing, and then once they get it, you just have to kind of go backwards and go through the whole thing. It's just a total flex by Nolan to be like, all right, I just
Hmm.
showed you this movie this way, and I'm just gonna do the whole thing backwards, and then we're gonna have one big battle scene at the end. And it's like,
Yeah.
sure, like I can dig it. I mean, like I said, if you really want to pick it apart, like there are moments when like Robert Pattinson's character doesn't have to wear oxygen, but other people,
Mhm.
and I'm like, wouldn't they have to do that if he went that direction or that turnstile? But
Turnstile.
right, but like, who cares? Like, it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I don't know. Where would you put this on your Nolan rankings?
Oh shit. Yeah, I should have had this better prepared. Um, um,
I
I'm a
mean,
huge
for
Inception person. That was my best movie of the decade.
Yeah.
Check that out, youtube.com/nostalgia pod. A year
Check
later,
it.
that's still the case for me. So I have Inception 1. That's the
Dark
thing. I
Knight.
think that's what's so fun about Nolan is he has a lot of uh, worthy picks. Like I
Yeah.
think like Memento, I feel like people have basically underrated at this point because it's been 20 plus years, and once you watch it once, it's not the same as watching it again. I understand all that. So I don't. I also don't have Memento like super high, relatively speaking.
Hmm.
I really like Interstellar because I'm a sci-fi person. Like I don't give a fuck about the end show at the bookcase. Like everything else is such a fucking slap. Like
The Matt Damon heel turn in that is all
oh,
time.
talk about like unexpected cameos.
Yep.
Um, and just I think that the movie is like super thrilling in terms of like showing interstellar space travel. Like
Yep.
that and Ad Astra, like there's really nothing close in terms of the actual travel stuff. Obviously, there's great sci-fi stuff like 2001 and Alien, but like in terms of like the travel aspect and like the grandeur, and then again like the existential threat that was
Yep.
happening on Earth, like I think Interstellar has become underrated. Like Dark Knight, everyone hypes Dark Knight for good reason. Don't have anything really to add there.
Hmm.
And I also really like Dunkirk. I don't know if Dunkirk's the most fun to revisit, but it's really impressive movie and should be at like the top of the list as well because of just I think how well made it is and also really smart.
Yeah. I think Tenet probably is like 4 or 5 for me. I'm probably gonna go Inception, Dark Knight, Prestige, and then I don't know. Dunkirk is up there. It's just a really well done movie. Batman Begins, I also really like. I think Ra's al Ghul is one of the best villains, outside in the Batman
Mm.
comics that we've gotten. So, yeah, it's probably like 4 or 5 for me. It's right around that tier. And I mean, you get like you said, you get Christopher Nolan doing basically a James Bond movie, and it's just super charming and fun. And watching it a second time so close together, you really do pick up on so many more things, especially the Pattinson of it all. Like his
Yeah.
character makes so much more sense watching it back again. And their interactions make a lot more sense. And that I would love to see a follow up to this where they kind of go back from when he gets recruited back in time, because he talks about how they get up to some stuff. So
Right.
I'd love to see that relationship as it grows. But
And that's a thing too. Like there's been critics of the movie that do the stupid shit where you say, "Oh, why didn't you do this instead?" And in this case, it was
wouldn't be that
why
movie.
why wasn't it that movie about Pattinson and stuff? And it's like you could do this with every fucking movie. Like
Mhm.
this isn't valuable to the discourse, in my opinion.
Totally.
Like why didn't you do this? I'm just like, because he didn't do this. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
judge what actually was done, not just
Yeah.
suggest a different plot. Like
I mean, I can definitely fall into that too, where I wish things were done differently, or I would like to see certain people collaborate, or that sort of thing. But
right.
in the end, this is what we got, and that's all we can really
Mhm.
critique off of. So
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. I like doing that stuff too, but it's
yeah,
usually with stuff like the Rise of Skywalker, where what we
right.
got isn't worth defending.
And this certainly is in my book. So, Tenet, if you can rent it, I think the rent price went down this
It
week,
did.
so
Yep.
this is a good time to check it out.